Hello and welcome back. Super excited about all of the comments that you've left us on YouTube as well as in emails. It's really helped us to see what your aha moments have been and where we need to clarify more of the system that we're doing, as well as how to change it even to address some cases that we hadn't thought of. If you want to know when the next episode drops, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and also hit that bell icon. Hi Viva fam, this is Richa from CoachViva.com. Let's go. Now make sure that you watched the previous video. We asked you 3 questions that would have led you to the tiny 20% corner that works for you. The remaining 80% is a pointless waste for you. You want to avoid this 80% doesn't matter zone, right? This is crucial for you to understand why it's so easy to fall into the trap of getting stuck into the 80% zone and why it's so hard and how to in fact overcome that to find your 20%. And anyone who's been through the trial and error roller coaster knows it's not nearly as easy as it sounds. I would love to go back to past Richa, grab her shoulders and shake her and say, it's not worth it.
Yeah, and unless you have like 10 years to spare, you probably can't afford the time to go through each method one by one for months at a time, because what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for the other person. And this is not obvious, and I wish people would stop pretending like this was so obvious. Like, I wish my first try was my last try, and honestly it should have been, because what I tried the first time actually did end up working for me, but I only knew that 10 years later after I went back for it. Think of it this way: you jump into a new bar class because your buddy says it's cool, you should try it. So you go and you take a class of bar, and then the next day you look in the mirror. What do you see? Nothing. You probably won't see anything, right? So, but your friend says, no, seriously, this is really cool, it works for me, you should definitely try. So you go a second time and look in the mirror again. What do you see? Still nothing. And now you're also in pain. So does that mean this wasn't your 20% and you should throw in the towel and give up on bar? Or do you say, but this has to work because it worked for my friend, and so you stick to it for months and months hoping that it'll change something? Do you really have the confidence to know whether this is your 20% or not? By the end of the series, you're going to be able to confidently answer that question.
You're going to know what are the methods that are going to work for you and how to test them in the minimal time to know whether you should stick to them. These methods aren't just the result of us self-experimenting for 10 plus years, but we've also tried and tested these methods on over 100 of our clients. And you might be surprised by what you discover. It's not going to be what you expect. Like Lucy said, this stuff isn't obvious, even if it feels that it should be. On the other hand, a lot of people say stuff like, I have tried everything and nothing works for me. I used to think this until I realized that every method that exists to help people lose fat, there is an opposite method that also helps people lose fat. For example, eating 6 meals in a day versus skipping meals by doing intermittent fasting. Calorie counting versus intuitive eating. Doing moderate exercises versus doing high intensity exercises. And when you realize that this all exists on a spectrum and you can mix and match these strategies, it's nearly impossible that there is no method that works for you. By the end of this video, you will have narrowed down the potential 20% list that you got from your previous video to an actionable set that you can start on. Even if all you do today is sit in your chair and watch this video, you will have a better understanding of the strategy that is needed to lose weight faster, and you're going to be miles ahead of the rest of the population. Isn't that worth your time right now? If you said yes, then grab your cup of coffee and let's get to it.
To get started, you first must know your negotiables and your non-negotiables. It's absolutely crucial that you know which ones are yours. Negotiables are things in your life that you can do more or less of. Here's a test. If a magic fairy comes up to you and tells you that they can give you the body of your dreams instantly, as long as for an entire year, assuming your life doesn't change very much, you'll be able to do X consistently. If you can't stick to X even once, the fairy will immediately reverse her spell, so you're back to square one again. If you're willing to take that bet, then that would be a negotiable habit for you. For me, that would be cooking at least twice a week and also going to the gym at least once a week. I feel confidently that I can realistically do that in life for a year. Non-negotiables are things in your life that you cannot budge on. If that same fairy comes to you and offers the same deal, you will immediately say, no, I'm pretty sure this isn't gonna work. So for example, for me, it would be eating out less than twice a week or waking up before 7 every day. While I know that some weeks I can do that, no way am I able to commit to that for the long term. I don't feel confident doing that. And notice that all of these examples are using words like greater than or less than conditions. So using these kinds of degree words help make the sacrifice more clear to you. It's more powerful than just saying eat out twice a week. For example, one of our clients is an entrepreneur and she has a lot of business dinners. So her non-negotiable was literally eating out every single day. Now, that doesn't mean that she has to eat out every single day. The point is that she doesn't know how many dinners that she will need to have on a given week, such that she can make that commitment to herself. So smartly, she set that bar high. I'd love to hear what your non-negotiables are in the comments below. And if you're stuck on whether or not something is a non-negotiable, let us know and we will help you out.
Next, list all of the methods that you have tried in the past. If you don't know what are all the methods that are out there, then I've created a downloadable guide that you can get from the description below. It'll give you the whole list and you can go through it and decide whether you've done it or not. After compiling that list, your job is to eliminate as many of the methods as you can, and I'll show you how. Now, you already know from the previous episode that you need to focus on your next steps methods and not your end goal methods, because methods build on each other to become habits. And nobody, I mean nobody, is able to overhaul their entire life and develop habits within a week. So go through your list and ask yourself these questions. And if the answer is no for any of the questions here, then cross it out of the list. Question number 1, have I done this method before and did it go okay? Does it violate any of my non-negotiables today? We had a client, and let's call her Sasha. She wanted to eliminate a whole bunch of foods like sweets, breads, etc. And it hadn't worked out in the past. This time, she just wanted to eliminate alcohol, like no alcohol at all, because in the past, if she has one drink, then it turns out into a whole binge drinking session. What we asked was, remember the last time you tried to eliminate a food group? How did it go? Now, you may think that this is alcohol, so that's not the same thing as food. Well, repeat after me. I can't trust what I say. I can only trust what I do. Yes, people can change, but people's past actions are far more predictive of their future actions. So instead of eliminating alcohol, we suggested a food rotation system. Her overeating triggers, or her pleasure foods, were sweets, fries, and alcohol. So what we decided was that on days where, let's say she has fries, she won't have alcohol or sweets. And then on the days that she has sweets, she won't have the other two. And that's the system that goes on.
The second question to ask is, does this method make sense to me? You won't stick to a method that you don't actually believe in. For example, in order to lose weight, you must eat less calories than you burn. Sure, there are foods out there that might turn into fat more easily than other foods, and there may be ways to speed up your metabolism a little bit. But even the harshest critic against calories in, calories out will agree that in order to lose weight in general, whether that's from fat, muscle, water, glycogen, etc., you need to be in a calorie deficit. Now, if your goal is to lose weight for the long term, does getting, for instance, a body wrap help with that? Does that make sense to you? Knowing that it has nothing to do with calories or energy balance. If it doesn't make sense, chuck it now.
Question number 3, does this violate one of my non-negotiables? Be honest with yourself. We had a client who was living paycheck to paycheck and simply couldn't afford having fruits or vegetables. It just wasn't feasible for her to buy fruits and vegetables every week from her groceries, no matter how much she wanted to have more fruits and vegetables. Her non-negotiable was her budget. If you've tried this method before, or a method that is really close to this method, and it hasn't worked out for you in the past because of a non-negotiable, then just cut it out right now. If you haven't tried this method before, then go ask a friend who has tried this method and see how it went for them, or maybe go online and just search for why blank works or why blank doesn't work or how did it go, and you will find arguments on both sides, and this will help you make a decision on whether this is a non-negotiable for you.
Number 4, do the level 2 version of the magic fairy test we talked about earlier. If a magic fairy tells you that they can instantly give you the body you want so long as you do X consistently for a year, this time, if you can't stick to it, the magic fairy will not only reverse the spell, she will add an additional 50 pounds onto your frame so that you're worse off than before. Now the stakes are even higher. Why are we doing this? Because if you are not at least 9 out of 10 confident you can keep up with these habits, you will certainly not last.
At this point, the majority of your potential 20% list should have been cut out, and you should have a very small list at this point. If you don't have anything left on your list, which is very rare, then think about using the trump card of intersectionality. This means taking the non-negotiables of 2 or more different strategies and putting them together to make your own hybrid strategy. Remember Sasha, the person on the food rotation system? We find that 3 of her non-negotiables were: number 1, she cannot go an entire week without one of her pleasure foods. So eliminating an entire food group doesn't really work for her. Number 2, calorie counting stresses her out, which means any number-based portioning system doesn't really work for her. Number 3, she cannot pre-plan her meals because she's always cooking for other people with different non-negotiables. Therefore, meal planning or pre-logging doesn't really work for her. So what we did was take only the negotiable part for every strategy. Number 1, instead of pure elimination diet, what we did was put her on a rotation system so she doesn't go an entire week without one of her pleasure foods. Number 2, instead of calorie counting, what we did was help her with hand portioning. In this case, she just needs her hands to figure out what is the standard portioning and to follow that. Number 3, for meal planning, since lunch is something that she just has for herself, she would pre-plan that and log it. No need to meal plan for her dinners. She can use the other 2 strategies from before. Also, since she's so busy often to have a different variety of lunch every time, she was very happy to eat the same healthy meal every day. Her final 20% were just the negotiable components of every method. See how she was able to make it her own instead of anyone else's? Does this example help? In the downloadable guide below, we have put together the case studies from over 100 real people that we have coached, so you can see their most popular exercise and diet strategies and figure out if those are the methods that will work for you and go through these questions. We show you what parts worked for them, what parts didn't work, and we show you how we evolved it so that you can too.
Now that you know what your own actionable set of 20% methods are, testing each one out shouldn't take you months to figure out whether or not this is something you can stick with. Not like the way we've all been used to. Try diet A until it gets so unbearable we can't take it anymore and then switch to another thing. In the next video, we're going to show you how to create situations to test your actionable 20% such that you will know as soon as possible whether or not this is going to work for you long term and not after 6 months later. Now, what you'll love about understanding and internalizing the principles of discovering and creating your 20% is that once you really internalize the big rock system, it just sort of becomes second nature and you kind of just can't turn it off anymore. You'll forever be able to eliminate the words, I give up, and I'm back to square one from your life.
So watch for the next video where we show you how to test the actionable 20% list that you just created. Thanks again for all of your comments and emails. It really means a lot to us that this message is heard and that anyone can find their 20%. No one needs to feel like they're broken or keep second guessing themselves or that they're out of options. If this is starting to click with you, comment below it clicked. And if it did not click with you, then tell us which part are you stuck on. Lucy and I are constantly improving the system, and we'd love nothing more than to have your help in improving it.